So I'm just going to do a quick teardown of this old PC here. This is actually a spare system that I had built probably about 5-6 years ago, probably 6 actually, and it was sort of put into use as a temporary PC when a family member's PC broke. Of course, temporary ended up for being a very long time. This thing's so long in the tooth now, I think it's an old Core 2 Duo. So I'm just going to strip it out and see what I can pull out to get rid of. And that will give me this case to reuse. They're old cases, but they're really nice and solid. Nice little micro ATX cases. I've actually got some more of these. There's a few bits of them down here you can probably see, and part disassembled. There's some more down there. I actually did a complete teardown of, I think, either 4 or 5 of these, cleaned them out. Got a whole load of video footage, but I've never got round to putting it together because I never finished then reassembling these with something else in. So I don't know if I'll ever get round to that. So these old Dell cases, they have like a release catch on the back, no screws, so you just pull that down, and then when you've pulled that down you can pull the side panel forward and then it lifts off. That's just a standard micro ATX size case, so you've got your 4 card slots, your standard IO shield, top mounted ATX power supply, and then a fan here. Ordinarily these would have like a green plastic, like a cowling over here, and they would have one of these sort of heat sinks, and the cowling would go over that to draw the hot air out of the case. That would act as a fan, sort of a general extraction from the case, and also cool the CPU fan. CPU heatsink. So the CPU heatsink didn't have a separate fan itself. That basically acted as the fan. These would have been Pentium 4 systems at the time. As you can see, this is not a Pentium 4 system. So this is the sort of classic old school cable management, which is basically put as many cable ties on as you can get until the cables don't move around. That seems to be the way it used to work. It's not too bad actually. I've folded things over like the ribbon cable here, and then tried to fold them flat along the bottom of the case there and twist it back up here, so you're just trying to maintain a bit of airflow. It's not too bad really, considering. I've got some of these little adjustable, let's see if I can show these little adjustable voltage regulators. They'd be for your fan control, so I've got one on that fan there. I've also got a fan on this graphics card with another one there. As I say, these are really old. I think they used to come with the Zorman heatsinks, the old socket A maybe, I'm not sure. The flower ones, I think they're called the flower, I'm not sure. I've got some somewhere, but they're such a nuisance to mount. Probably worth more in scrap metal value for the copper, to be honest, which is a bit sad. But so I'm just going to pull that. So these have got like a clip, and then you slide that down, and that unit comes off as one piece like that. Find that in a minute. So I'll just unplug that fan as well. This is a crappy old graphics card out of a, should have released the tag on that. That's a really crappy old Dell graphics card, and I just dumped an extra heatsink on that I had, one of these Arcasa aftermarket ones, and there was a regulator on the end here, and this used to get burning hot, so I just super glued a big heatsink on the end there. But I think this card is probably what's faulty, but to be honest, it's no great loss. It's a heap of crap. This is actually the same motherboard that I used in my hard disk test machine that I started but never finished, which I did a video on when I was messing around with SATA to IDE adapters. So we've got front panel header. Unusually for Dell, that is actually a standard, fairly standard front panel layout. Some right angled SATA cables, which are quite nice because it keeps the cables out of the way. USB header, so just a standard USB 2. And we've got the system fan header down here for that controller, which is just taped on there. Floppy disk, I think. Yeah, this has actually got a floppy disk drive in it. surprisingly. And this is something I'd forgotten about. So you get the 24 pin power connectors, and a lot of the time it's a 20 pin plus 4 extra. But I did forget that some boards would actually work just with the 20 pin, even though the board had 24 pins. And this is obviously one of those boards. Let's just pull all these out. And we've got the standard 4-pin CPU power connector. I quite like this little touch here. I can get it on. The Dell PSUs have got that little bit on the bottom of the power supply where you can hook a cable tie through, and that's quite neat because you can just keep the cables out of the way for things like that. A nice little touch. And it looks like this case had some other front panel stuff down here, and I've just tucked it around that behind this bracket out of the way. There are also some hard drive mounts which I've actually covered in footage for another video, which I never actually fully made. And these sort of go down here for mounting the hard drives to the front, and I've got just mount the hard drive out of the way, and then you obviously get a bit of airflow over the drive to cool it. But they're not the best for airflow, these cases. They've got some pretty big holes on the bottom, and there's like a gap under this bit here, but they're not amazing, but they're not terrible. But they're nice and sturdy, and they were cheap. I think I bought 5 or 6 of these together for about 30 quid, 35 quid I think, I don't know. It wasn't a lot. I'll just get these screws out of the motherboard. There we go, that's the board released. Yeah, so pretty standard sort of case. We've got floppy drive, you've got 2 5¼ inch bays at the front. Sometimes these have got a blanking plate across them and no floppy drive. I think the other ones I've got are like that. That one down there, if you can see it, that's just got a blanking plate across it. Even the little eject button is blanked in. It's got a DVD-ROM drive, SATA. This little piece of bracket here actually isn't part of this case. This is something I've probably cut out of an old case, which is something I used to do a lot of. I'd pinch screws and brackets and bits that I thought would be useful. So all I've done here, is I've mounted the floppy drive with the bolts for the floppy drive, but I've mounted this bracket between the bolts and the floppy drive, so that holds this extra bracket on here, which probably would have had a hard drive in originally, but that's got an SSD in it now. Which I think is just mounted by 1 screw, interestingly. Okay, just a pretty typical bog standard indestructible Dell power supply. There's one thing you can say about the old Dells: the power supplies used to be pretty solid. Oh, and this is a thing you used to get as well. You used to get these little like rubbery bungs on the end of power connectors, just to stop the ends from shorting. There's been a few occasions with sort of Dell PCs in an office environment where PCs have been moved around and they're switched back on, they make a horrendous racket, and it's usually because these things fell off and got trapped in a fan somewhere. Yeah, so stuff like this is really a pain for me, because to be honest it's not really very useful anymore. It's too slow and outdated, but there's nothing wrong with it, and it's a nice little board. I mean, for a micro ATX board it's quite a nice little board. The screws, but it's just not very useful anymore. I'm currently trying yet again for I don't know how many attempts this is over the last few years to try and go through the stuff and build up what's useful and get rid of what's not. And this really is beyond useful for me. Now it could be, it could be a basis for a nice little sort of retro build, maybe for the, I don't know, would this be 2000s, mid 2000s, this sort of system? However, I do already have that base covered with this quite nice Gigabyte board. I really like this board. I bought this board new, and I think it was used for about a month, and it's just ridiculous really. But I'd quite like to build a Windows 7 system up with this. I think that would have been right for this time. And set it up. I think it's got 8 gig of RAM on it. Nice little low profile Sims there. Usually about 3 times higher than that nowadays. Nice array of PCI slots rather than PCI Express, although it does have PCI Express as well. So a 16X and a 1X. No USB 3, I wouldn't think. No, just USB 2. USB 3 is too new for that. 6 SATA ports, IDE port, floppy, a bunch more USBs. Have we got a COM port? We've got 1 COM port. Coaxial, I'm guessing that's perhaps an SP-diff audio, that one there. There's your COM port, obviously PS2 connectors. Yeah, I'd quite like to do something with that one, so that's one I'm trying to keep a hold of, but we'll see. Maybe that'll end up going as well. I can't keep everything. It's just got to the point now where it's detrimental. So anyway, going back to this, obviously another Gigabyte board. Yeah, just a nice little standard micro ATX board for a basic build really. 4 SATA ports, again no USB 3. Onboard VGA, so would that have been in the chipset? Or would that be, I would imagine onboard VGA would be in the chipset then. So I'm somewhat lost touch with everything. Now this heatsink's mounted a bit weird as well, it's got bolts. Normally you'd have those stupid plastic press things that you push in and twist. I hate them. But I think I've probably done away with that because I've put a metal bracket on the back. Because what you used to find with a lot of these boards is they wouldn't have any kind of retainers on the back. So when you use those push fit ones, they'd put a nice, well not a nice, a bad bend in the board. So that's probably why I've done that. So perhaps I should leave that on. I don't know. If I've got some spares, I'll leave it on. RAM wise, I think this board, I don't know what the limit is, whether it's 4 or 8 gig, but these are actually 4 gig memory modules. But I bought these really cheap, and that'll do it some good. I bought these really cheap at the time. I've got some in another board exactly the same as this, and they don't work on any boards except for these, and they only detect as 2 gig, not 4. So it must be to do with the way the memory is configured. I don't think it even works with that other Gigabyte board, or it might just be the same, it may detect as 2s, so I just stuck with the nice looking low profile ones. So these things sometimes sell for maybe 20-25 quid with a reasonable processor and sort of 4 gig of RAM. I'm not actually sure what CPU is on here actually, let's have a look. Oh, that's good, we haven't even got any thermal paste on it. It was probably meant to be temporary as well, but yeah, everything temporary ends up being a long drawn out jobby. So what have we got? Oh, it's an E8400, so it's a reasonable chip actually. For that type anyway. So it's a Core 2 Duo, so dual core Pentium basically. Socket 775 I think that is. Probably got that wrong as well. That looks so dated now. With the picture, the pin pads, it just does look so old. It's frightening really. So actually in here, this is that hard drive testing system that I have used it, but I've never set it up properly, and that's got one of these Gigabyte micro ATX boards in. That will need to come out as well and be gotten rid of because it's just not up to scratch for what I'm using, even just for testing hard drives. And there's just too much messing about with that IDE adapter on the board. So this is just another stack of stuff I've been trying to go through. Some of this is from that Saturn server, as I call it, that's been torn down. Heat sinks and fans and all manner of stuff. Some of these nice big tunic towers, screws. It's just, there's too much stuff. Cards. I've been going through a bunch of motherboards. Most of this is 3rd gen and 4th gen, although the 3rd gen stuff generally takes 2nd gen as well. Although I have got some stuff that's, I think this board actually only takes 2nd gen stuff. This was actually going to be one of the boards that I used for the hard drive checking machine, because it's got 6 SATA ports on it and plenty of PCI Express. But it's old. I'm going to try and get rid of a lot of the older stuff. So the 3rd gen is like the oldest I've got really for actual practical stuff. It's still perfectly usable for certain things like web browsing and that. And some more boards here. And some more there with an upturned dish next to it. Don't ask me why there's an upturned dish in here, I don't know. And I've just been going through this ridiculous selection of processors that I've got. I've just basically gone around different bits of the house where I know I've got stuff stored and just got all this stuff together, and it's just frightening. You just forget how much crap you've got. I've actually just labelled these with whiteboard marker, so this will rub off, because I've just got sick and tired of trying to see what the numbers are on the chips. You have to keep turning them in the light to get it right. And I've got a bit of a selection of RAM here to go through as well. This is the RAM that was in the Chia mining, farming, plotting, whatevering, headaching server. That's, well, it's no longer running because there's no RAM in it. And I found these rather unusual things. They're basically adapters to turn laptop sized DDR3 RAM into standard size desktop DDR3 RAM. And at the time I bought these, it was quite a while ago, I think the RAM prices were a bit silly, and it was significantly cheaper to buy laptop RAM plus an adapter compared to just buying the proper modules. So that's what I did, and they do work. They do work, but that RAM might get pinched out of there for something else now. And what seems to be my latest obsession is these old E5 Xeon processors. There's a whole bunch here. I don't know why I've got 3 of those. Not quite sure what's happened there. There should only be 2, but so these are also something I'm going to go through and put into systems. I've got a couple of dual CPU systems, so that's one of the reasons there's so many. The other reason is I just keep buying shit that I don't need, really, you know. But I've also just found better chips a little bit cheaper as I've been going along, so some of these bits will probably get sold off as well. I've also got a couple of what are often referred to as cheap Chinese boards for these Xeons, although they're not so cheap these days. I've noticed the prices have gone up, and I think it's because a lot of people are buying these to build systems, because they can be quite good value for money. I mean, it's like these are 10 core CPUs. I think they're about 50-60 quid. Obviously the more cores, the slower the speed of the chip, and it's just getting a balance between price and performance. Some of the top end ones of these are still fetch stupid money, 200 quid a piece or something, and there's just no point spending that much on this old hardware, and it's also quite power hungry. This one's a recent one I've bought, and one of the things I'm hopefully going to get a chance to have a look at soon, which we'll see. Apparently the E5-1650 is one of a rare occurrence where you can actually overclock it. Xeons are normally not overclockable, so that could be interesting, because that's reasonably quick chip when it's running in turbo mode, and it's 6 core, so that's got potential use, but we'll see how that goes. And the kitchen worktop's still a mess. This is the frame in the board that I had the Chia system mounted on. Some more RAM in that here. Yeah, I've been pulling a few bits and pieces apart here and testing stuff. This is actually the board I'm looking at using for my hard disk testing rig. It seems a bit of a waste in some ways. It's only 4th gen, so it's still old crap as far as most people are going to be concerned. But it's a nice board, and I think I paid 35 quid for this delivered back in January. I've just had a look on eBay, and people are selling them for 90 to 100 quid. I just don't understand what's going on. People must obviously be really desperate to get hold of stuff to build systems at the minute. It seems a bit of a waste because it's got 4 slots on as well, so it means you can put 32 gig on this, whereas a lot of the boards I've got have only got 2, the 4th gen boards, which are what I'm going to be using to build some systems with. But I've got to make use of this. I've got to put it to some use. This is an old, I think this is 2nd gen only, this board. I'm using the traditional heatsink mounting method known as gravity here for testing purposes. That's one of those Dell heatsinks. Just plonking on just to fire something up and see if it boots. It's perfectly fine. Yeah, these are the old Tunics again. So they will be going back on another system, which I will also be covering hopefully soon. We'll see. No, that's it. It's just, I don't know, just a random video that I felt like making, of no real use or consequence to anyone, other than you've just wasted probably 20 minutes of your life watching this shit.